Hello everyone, hope everybody's doing great today. Appreciate those who watch this video. I hope you enjoy it. Also appreciate those of you who have subscribed. Thank you very much. Today we're going to be talking about Robocop 2. Now this is a very good demonstration of corporate greed. In the movie and in real life, Robocop was a big hit, probably bigger than what they were expecting. So you got to pump them out. You got to pump out those movies, baby. So they did Robocop 2. Not directed by Paul. I can't never pronounce his last name. Paul Verhoeven or whatever. Paul blah blah blah. Because he was wanting a great script before he did another RoboCop. Couldn't come up with one that he was satisfied with. So they got the good old Empire Strikes Back director to do this one. Irvin Kirshner. Is that how you say his name? I'm terrible with names. Terrible with names, I say. So we just do get the RoboCop 2. So if you never watched RoboCop 2, boy, watch the first one. Just stick with the first one. First one's the best. It's a classic. The second one, big drop off. In this movie, though, they're trying to recreate another RoboCop, but they're unable to duplicate the success of the first one. They still are choosing cops, but the cops always have some mental breakdown or something once they turn into these machines. So in desperation, they decide to turn into a criminal who likes to push drugs and make his own drugs and sell them out there. And he's pretty much a human for the first half of the movie, before he kind of meets his demise. And then these guys, the corporate greed people, like I said, you got the real life corporate greed, and they kind of push it into the movie corporate greed. So they're trying to produce another RoboCop, so they choose a criminal, and then they to get him to do the things that they want him to do the justice things, they kind of inject his brain with the drug that he was creating himself, because he's kind of addicted to it. That's how they're able to control him. The special effects in this movie is still very kind of clunky, and the first movie, it wasn't so noticeable because the first Robocop thing was only in the movie for maybe 3-5 minutes and didn't really have much screen time. So, the stop motion stuff wasn't out there in your face. In this movie, especially at the end, it's a little bit more out there in your face. It's more distracting than the first movie. They did the best they could with the time period, but it's still kind of distracting. And maybe on purpose to kind of lean into that. I'm not really sure if it was a decision that Irving made, but it just kind of took it away. Overall, you still got some of the thematics you got there. You got these over-the-top violent commercials. The movie is a commentary on violence, probably in movies and as well in life, and in the mean streets of Detroit. So you do got that point, and then they really push it hard because you got like a 12-year-old mastermind. You got the gang leader, but then you got like a 12-year-old boy selling these drugs, and he's like telling these grown-ups what to do. And he doesn't do the drugs because he's able to kind of manipulate these grown-ups because they are addicted to the drug. And it's kind of is a commentary on how doing drugs can really actually chain you to or put you in a cage, be the better word. These drugs can put you in a cage, make you do things that you normally wouldn't do in life, just so you get that new hit, another hit from that drug. And how people, like a little boy, can control you just because they know how you're addicted to drugs. So just get that kind of commentary in this one. There's kind of some ridiculous machine parts. I guess they're trying to pay homage to the first one, where in the first movie when he dies. Why can't I remember his name? I know I don't get my notes, but when our lead character dies, he gets his hand shot off, and he's kind of dissembled as a human. In this one, same thing. They kind of capture RoboCop with a magnet, and then they just take him apart. I'm not really sure, like, in real life, would villains really just take apart the robot and lay him out on the street like that? Or would they actually really try to destroy him where he could never work again? I'm trying to get in that mentality. I mean, in a way, I guess I can see both. This movie does really hit hard about the police force, and they're going on strike because they're not being treated well by the mayor and the government. You do get that more corporate greed where the city borrowed money from this corporation, and now this corporation's kind of using that debt to control the mayor and his duties, and to be able to produce like this Robocop type thing. So I'm trying to think, on that spot, maybe you guys can give me your opinion. Would the villains just outright destroy Robocop, or would they take him apart? Because at this time period, going back to what I was trying to get to, at this time period, the cops' morale are like really in the gutter, because they're not getting the backup that they need, which in today's society, it's kind of like a parallel to like cities cutting back on their police force budget, less money for the policemen. And then when the cops do their jobs, a lot of times the mayors and the political figures undercut them and make them be out the villains. So you kind of get that in this movie. So going back to dissembling Robocop, seeing this guy who this police force basically sees as unstoppable, and see him laying out all in the street in different pieces, that would be kind of hurting to the whole old morale, like this is Robocop, he's indestructible, and look what these villains are able to do to him. What are they going to do to us? Personally, if I was the villains, I would have probably chopped off the head, did a lot more than just take him apart, part from part. And then you do got another parallel to today's society. You do kind of got, and then another parallel you got to today's society is that this new, this corporation that built Robocop, they want to do new programs for him. Instead of fighting crime, they want him to go around giving speeches about the environment, doing things that cops aren't really supposed to be doing, being good role model. I mean, cops are supposed to be good role models for the kids, but they want that to be his priority. Don't really want him to capture the criminals. They want him to educate the criminals. A lot of stuff that this movie is talking about back in the early 90s. You kind of see that in today's governments and philosophy of what the police force is supposed to do. It's kind of weird how that kind of carried over from 35 years ago into today's world. Maybe that stuff back then, I was too young to remember, maybe that stuff back then was, and the undercurrent of the political world back in the day. But you kind of see that stuff being played out. So in that case, it is worth watching, just seeing how a lot of the stuff that they were talking about back in the early 90s is prevalent in today's society on how policemen should act, carry out their duties. In that case, Robocop 2 is kind of relevant to our time. Otherwise, just stick with the first one. But 2 ain't real bad, but it's kind of like the poor man's Robocop. It's watch worthy. It's not something you just you'll absolutely hate, but you can really tell that it's a big drop off from the first movie. But right now you can watch it on Amazon Prime. Check it out. It is worth watching, I guess, is my final verdict. Let me know what your comments below about Robocop 2. Do you think it's on par with the first one? Why not? Do you think it's actually a good movie? I think it's a mediocre movie myself. So have a great day, and until next time, bye.